Across America, museums hold treasures. These treasures, however, are not just any ordinary artifacts. They are the Benin bronzes, masterpieces of African art, each piece a testament to the rich cultural heritage of the Benin Kingdom. These bronzes, with their intricate designs and historical significance, are scattered across various museums, far from their place of origin. These are not just any artifacts. They are the embodiment of Africa's history, culture, and identity. Each artifact tells a story of a people, a civilization, and a way of life that has been passed down through generations. The craftsmanship and artistry of these pieces are unparalleled, reflecting the skills and traditions of African artisans. They are pieces of Africa's soul, taken far from their homes. These artifacts, now displayed in foreign settings, are a stark reminder of the colonial past. They were taken during a time of conquest and exploitation, and their presence in these museums is a testament to that history. The displacement of these artifacts has left a void in their places of origin, a void that is felt deeply by the communities they were taken from. Masks stare blankly from display cases. These masks, once used in sacred rituals and ceremonies, now sit behind glass, their eyes gazing into the distance. They are stripped of their context, their meaning, and their purpose. The stories they were meant to tell are now silenced, their voices lost in the sterile environment of the museum. Ceremonial robes hang lifeless, stripped of their context. These robes, once worn by leaders and priests during important ceremonies, now hang lifeless in museum exhibits. They are no longer part of the living culture they were created for. Instead, they are reduced to mere objects of curiosity, their significance and meaning lost to the viewers. These objects tell a story, but it is a story fragmented, dislocated. The artifacts are pieces of a larger puzzle, a puzzle that is incomplete without the context and history that surrounds them. Each piece holds a part of the story, but without the whole, the story remains fragmented and dislocated. The true meaning and significance of these artifacts can only be understood when they are seen in their original context. Their presence in American institutions raises complex questions about cultural ownership, loss, and the enduring legacy of colonialism. The debate over the rightful ownership of these artifacts is ongoing, with many calling for their return to their places of origin. The issue is not just about the physical objects, but about the cultural heritage and identity they represent. The legacy of colonialism continues to impact African communities, and the return of these artifacts is seen as a step towards healing and reconciliation. The impact of this displacement on African communities is profound, a wound that continues to resonate through generations. The loss of these artifacts is felt deeply, as they are not just objects, but symbols of cultural identity and heritage. The displacement has disrupted the transmission of cultural knowledge and traditions, leaving a gap that is difficult to fill. The return of these artifacts is seen as a way to restore that connection and heal the wounds of the past. The removal of these artifacts represents more than just the loss of objects. It signifies a loss of cultural heritage, identity, and history. The artifacts are symbols of a rich and diverse culture that has been disrupted by colonialism. Their removal has left a void that is felt deeply by the communities they were taken from. The return of these artifacts is seen as a way to restore that heritage and reclaim their cultural identity. It signifies a disruption of cultural continuity, a silencing of voices, and a challenge to the very identity of a people. The displacement of these artifacts has disrupted the transmission of cultural knowledge and traditions, leaving a gap that is difficult to fill. The return of these artifacts is seen as a way to restore that connection and heal the wounds of the past. The issue is not just about the physical objects, but about the cultural heritage and identity they represent. Imagine a family photo album, its pages torn out, the faces of ancestors scattered to the winds. This is the reality faced by many African communities, their cultural heritage held captive in foreign lands. The absence of these artifacts creates a void, a gap in the historical narrative that can be difficult, if not impossible, to fill. The return of these artifacts is seen as a way to restore that connection and heal the wounds of the past. This is the reality faced by many African communities, their cultural heritage held captive in foreign lands. The absence of these artifacts creates a void, a gap in the historical narrative that can be difficult, if not impossible, to fill. The return of these artifacts is seen as a way to restore that connection and heal the wounds of the past. The issue is not just about the physical objects, but about the cultural heritage and identity they represent. The absence of these artifacts creates a void, a gap in the historical narrative that can be difficult, if not impossible, to fill. The return of these artifacts is seen as a way to restore that connection and heal the wounds of the past. The issue is not just about the physical objects, but about the cultural heritage and identity they represent. The legacy of colonialism continues to impact African communities, and the return of these artifacts is seen as a step towards healing and reconciliation. Artifacts are not merely objects, they are embodiments of cultural memory. They are the tangible threads that weave together the rich tapestry of a community's history, beliefs, and values. They tell stories of creation, of kinship, of the spiritual beliefs that bind a community together. These artifacts are the storytellers of the past, narrating the origins of the world, the bonds of family, and the sacred rituals that define a people. When these objects are removed, it is as if chapters have been ripped from a people's history. The removal is not just a physical act, but a symbolic erasure of identity, leaving behind a void where once there was a vibrant narrative. The intricate beadwork of a Yoruba crown, each bead meticulously placed, tells a story of royalty, craftsmanship, and cultural significance. The rhythmic patterns of an Ashanti kente cloth, these are not just aesthetically pleasing designs. They are symbols of status, history, and the philosophical beliefs of the Ashanti people. They are visual representations of complex cosmologies, of social structures, of ancestral knowledge passed down through generations. Each pattern, each color holds a meaning, a message from the ancestors to the present and future generations. The absence of these tangible links to the past can create a sense of cultural dispossession. It is a disconnection from the roots that nourish the identity of a community, leading to a feeling of being unanchored in the world. How do you teach a child about their heritage when the physical manifestations of that heritage are absent? Without these artifacts, the stories become abstract, harder to grasp, and the connection to the past becomes tenuous. How do you maintain a sense of cultural pride when the objects that embody that pride are held by others, often displayed as mere curiosities? These artifacts, when displayed in foreign museums, are stripped of their context and significance, reducing them to exotic novelties. The impact on identity is undeniable. The loss of these artifacts is not just a loss of objects, but a loss of the stories, the knowledge, and the pride that they carry. It is a loss that is felt deeply, a wound that can take generations to heal. The journey to reclaim these artifacts is not just about recovering objects, but about restoring a sense of wholeness, of reconnecting with the past to build a stronger future. Communities are coming together, advocating for the return of their cultural heritage. This movement is about more than just repatriation. It is about justice, recognition, and the right to tell their own stories. When artifacts are returned, it is a cause for celebration, a revival of cultural practices, and a reaffirmation of identity. These moments are powerful, symbolizing resilience and the enduring spirit of a people. For future generations, these reclaimed artifacts will serve as a bridge to their heritage, a source of pride, and a foundation upon which to build their own identities. The fabric of identity, once unraveled, can be woven anew, stronger and more vibrant than ever before. The removal of artifacts also disrupts the transmission of traditional practices and knowledge. Many African cultures are oral cultures, their history and beliefs passed down through generations through storytelling, song, and ritual. Artifacts play a crucial role in these traditions, serving as tangible links to the past and as tools for spiritual connection. A ceremonial mask, for example, is not merely an object to be admired for its aesthetic qualities. It is a conduit to the spirit world, used in rituals to invoke ancestors, to heal the sick, to ensure a bountiful harvest. When these objects are removed from their context, their significance is diminished. The rituals lose their potency, the stories lose their resonance. The knowledge embedded in the creation and use of these objects, the intricate carving techniques, the symbolic meanings of colors and materials, risks being lost. It is a loss that extends beyond the objects themselves, a loss of cultural memory and spiritual connection. Section 4. The price of heritage, economic implications. The removal of cultural artifacts also has economic implications for African communities. Tourism, for example, is a significant source of income for many countries. Historic sites and museums attract visitors from around the world eager to experience the richness and diversity of African cultures. However, when the artifacts that represent these cultures are housed in institutions thousands of miles away, the economic benefits of tourism are diminished. Moreover, the repatriation of cultural artifacts could create new opportunities for economic development in African countries. Museums and cultural centers could be established, providing jobs and generating income for local communities. The return of these objects could also stimulate research and scholarship, leading to a deeper understanding and appreciation of African history and culture. Section 5. Scarcity and significance. Artifacts through hardship. The scarcity of African artifacts in Africa itself adds another layer of complexity to this issue. These artifacts, which hold immense cultural and historical value, are often found in museums and private collections far from their place of origin. This scarcity is not just a matter of numbers, but a reflection of a deeper historical wound. Centuries of slavery, colonialism, and forced migration have resulted in the dispersal of countless cultural treasures. These artifacts, once integral to the daily lives and spiritual practices of African communities, now reside in foreign lands, often without the context that gives them meaning. The transatlantic slave trade in particular ripped millions of Africans from their homeland, severing cultural ties and scattering artifacts across the globe. This brutal period in history not only displaced people, but also fragmented their cultural heritage, leaving behind a legacy of loss and longing. The Great Migration, which saw millions of African Americans move from the rural South to the urban North in the 20th century, further disrupted the transmission of cultural heritage. As families relocated in search of better opportunities, many cultural artifacts were left behind lost or forgotten in the process. In the face of such profound loss, the artifacts that remain take on an even greater significance. They are the remnants of a rich cultural tapestry, fragments of a history that has been both resilient and fragile. Each artifact tells a story of survival, of a culture that has endured despite immense challenges. They're not just objects, they are survivors, testaments to the resilience and creativity of African cultures. The intricate details and craftsmanship of these artifacts speak volumes about the skills and traditions that have been passed down through generations. For African Americans in particular, these objects represent a tangible link to a past that was stolen from them. They offer a sense of connection to their ancestors, a way to bridge the gap created by centuries of displacement and cultural erasure. They offer a way to reconnect with their heritage, to reclaim their history, and to celebrate their cultural identity. These artifacts are not just relics of the past, they are living symbols of a vibrant and enduring culture. They inspire pride, foster understanding, and serve as a reminder of the strength and resilience of the African diaspora. Scholars and historians continue to study these artifacts, uncovering new insights into the lives and traditions of the people who created them. Community events and cultural celebrations often center around these artifacts, using them as focal points to educate and inspire future generations. Museums and cultural institutions play a crucial role in preserving these artifacts and making them accessible to the public. Interactive exhibits and educational programs help to engage young people, fostering a deeper appreciation for their heritage and encouraging them to explore their own cultural identities. Efforts to restore and preserve these artifacts are ongoing, with many community members actively participating in cultural preservation initiatives. These efforts are not just about maintaining physical objects, but about keeping the spirit and traditions of African cultures alive for future generations. In recent years, there has been a growing movement to return African artifacts to their countries of origin. These repatriation efforts are celebrated as victories for cultural justice, allowing communities to reclaim their heritage and restore a sense of historical continuity. When these artifacts are displayed in their original cultural context, they regain their full significance and meaning. Community members can engage with them in ways that honor their traditions and history, creating a more authentic and enriching experience for all. Ultimately, these artifacts are more than just historical objects, they are living parts of a dynamic and evolving culture. They continue to play a vital role in cultural rituals and ceremonies, serving as powerful symbols of identity, heritage, and resilience. As these artifacts are passed down through generations, they carry with them the stories, values, and traditions of the past. They help young people to understand their roots, to take pride in their heritage, and to carry forward the legacy of their ancestors. In celebrating these artifacts, we celebrate the enduring spirit of the African diaspora. We honor the struggles and triumphs of those who came before us, and we reaffirm our commitment to preserving and cherishing our cultural heritage for generations to come.